Good afternoon, everybody. Great to see so many of you here. Welcome to Career Maps live event with Amazon this afternoon. Great to have everybody here. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you haven't noticed already, you will see there's a chat box to the right of your screen. Feel free to put any questions or comments you like throughout the presentation, because following the presentation, there will be a Q&A and we'll answer all your questions then. And if people can ping them along during the way, they might get back to you during the time. Also keep an eye out for any links. Whilst they will be in the presentation, you might want to open stuff up while we're speaking. This afternoon's session is for career changes, and Adam Pally, the Apprenticeship Talent Attraction person, will be hosting you today. The session is being recorded and will be available to review again on Career Map Live. I'll be dropping some links in throughout. So, Adam, are you there?
Yep, hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, welcome and thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to pop off and let you carry on, and I'll see you later at the Q&A.
Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. I've got some colleagues with me today who I'll ask to come on camera in a second and introduce themselves. But before I do, so I'm Adam. I work in the UK apprenticeship team here at Amazon, looking at the attraction and recruitment of apprentices. So basically kind of everything up until day one on the program. As Sharon mentioned, this is part of a series of webinars we've been running throughout February and March to talk about our 2022 programs. So some of the content to this one will be similar to other webinars. If any of you have joined previous webinars part of this series, the introductory part at the start will be similar, but then we will be focusing particularly today on apprenticeships for career changes. So people who have had a career in some form prior to joining and are using an apprenticeship to kind of change the direction of their career and retrain and do something they're passionate about. So if I could just welcome, please, all my colleagues on camera and quickly introduce yourselves before we get started. So do it left to right. So Jane, would you like to go first, please?
Hiya, yeah, my name's Jane. I'm currently studying a health and safety apprenticeship at Darlington, Amazon.
Thank you. Julia?
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a Senior Digital Marketing Manager for Book Depository, which is an Amazon company.
Thank you. And Lee?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my name's Lee, and I'm studying a project management apprenticeship with a team called Amazon in the Community.
Great, thank you. So if you can turn your cameras and microphones off, and you'll hear from them later in the presentation, where they'll talk to you about apprenticeships from their perspective. So to kick us off then, I've got a few slides on Amazon, and I would try not to spend too much time on these slides. But what we want to try and do is give you an idea that of what Amazon actually is versus a lot of what people think we are. So we're more than necessarily what people think in terms of online shopping and tech. So I'll show you that in a second. But a couple of pictures on the screen here. So the first one on the left is our founder, Jeff Bezos, sat in what looks like his garage in 1994 when Amazon was launched. Amazon.com was launched initially as an online bookstore. You fast forward to today, the office on the right-hand side there. That's one of our offices in downtown Seattle in the US. So that's our Sphere office, and that is used as a meeting space for Amazon employees. So essentially, we've come a long way since 1994. We've got around about 1.6 million employees worldwide now, and growing. And lots of innovation across Amazon, lots of growth, lots of ideas that have contributed to that growth over the years. And some of that can be shown on this slide. This is a very small selection of what Amazon does. This is nowhere near everything, but we've put this together to give you an idea of the scope of what we do. So most people will consider Amazon as an online retailer, a company that a lot of people have used in the last 18 months, 2 years, in the pandemic, when it was difficult for us to kind of get to the shops. The online delivery has been a real significant resource for people when we haven't been able to do that. So heavily across the last few years, our business has been kind of online retail. Also technology, so AWS, Amazon Web Services, cloud computing. We're obviously very well known for that as well. But Amazon does a lot more than that, which certainly before I joined a few years ago, I didn't necessarily realize the scope of what Amazon did until I was an employee of Amazon. So as you can see on the screen here, we do everything from fashion through to robotics. So we've got apprentices in Amazon Fashion who are fashion buyers. Amazon has its own range of clothes. Not many people know that. We've got, say, fashion buyers on an apprenticeship program. But we've also got apprentices in our engineering programs working on the robots in the fulfillment centers that move all the packages around quicker and allow us to get items as fast as possible to customers. You may recognize some of the logos on the screen like Whole Foods, Twitch, IMDb, that you might be aware of these companies we didn't necessarily realize were part of Amazon. And again, we've got apprentices in IMDb in Bristol working on software development program behind the IMDb platform. So I guess what we're trying to say is Amazon is a great place to be if you want to have potentially a multi-year career with us where you can do completely different things. And Amazon is very encouraging of people moving around and trying out different things. So you don't get stuck in the same place for the whole of your career doing the same thing. There's a lot of variety across Amazon. And it's just reinforced by this slide here. There's nothing really on here that it isn't what wasn't on the previous slide in terms of it's just to show you at a bit more of a higher scale in terms of what we do, the variety. So every single logo on the screen there is a part of Amazon. We have a lot of apprentices in many of them. But as you can see, everything from web and cloud to business services to delivery, online shopping, technology. Amazon is more than just the company which you may think it is. And so the opportunity again to move around is massive. So when I mentioned before, so when Jeff basically started Amazon in 1994, one of the founding principles of Amazon was customer obsession, and that's still true today. Pretty much what we mean by customer obsession is it doesn't matter what role you're in, who your customer is. The customer could be internal, they could be external, but whatever we do, we start with the customer and work backwards. So the first thing to do is figure out what does the customer want, how do they want it, how can we make it better, and then you work backwards from there to figure out how to do it. This leads to innovation. This leads to us introducing things that we think the customer might want before they actually want it. So there's plenty of examples of businesses across Amazon that we've used data, we've used insight to predict what we think customers want before they're asking for it. We'll go out and introduce something, and then customers will tell us that they rely on that product or service once it's been introduced. So you're really encouraged across Amazon, no matter what role you're in, no matter what level you're at, to innovate, try new things. Can we do it in a different way? Has anybody thought about doing it in this way? But everything you do should be focused on the customer. That will in turn make sure that it's right for Amazon. And that is one of the reasons why Amazon is successful today, while the growth and the products and services that we offer, as I mentioned, since 1994, that growth has been massive, and that's down to customer obsession. So if it's right for the customer, it's then in turn right for Amazon. And I mentioned innovation. So this slide's a couple of years old now, but it just gives you an idea in terms of some of the things that we've done that have innovated on behalf of customers. So not all of these ideas are successful. Amazon does try a lot of things that aren't necessarily successful, but it's all about innovating for customers and trying to make the experience better, quicker, more efficient for them. So some of you may have Alexa, some of you may have Kindle readers, but these are all born out of ideas that people across Amazon have had, and one of which, advanced shopping. So this is Amazon Go, which the stores in the US, and we've got one in London now, where essentially customers were telling us that the worst part of the shopping experience was the queuing and paying at the end. So through technology, Amazon has introduced stores where you can go in, you can pick up the items, put them straight into your bag, and then scan your Amazon app on the way out. And the technology, the cameras, the motion sensors around the store will detect what you've taken, and then we'll send you a message through the app that will tell you what we think you've taken. If you click on yes, then you automatically get billed to your Amazon account. You don't have to queue, you don't have to pay at the end. So that's just one small example of how Amazon has taken customer feedback to try and innovate and remove the worst part of the shopping experience to make it better for customers. That goes on right across the business, no matter what role you're in. So it's quite an exciting place to work because it allows you to have ideas and then put things in place to action them and explore those ideas, and that's really encouraged right across Amazon. A little bit about our culture. So if you've already applied to Amazon or are thinking of doing so, you will no doubt hear about our leadership principles, and these are really important to us. So they are not just things that we've put together that sound good. They are ingrained in our recruitment processes, and in your day-to-day working life at Amazon, the leadership principles are there to kind of underpin everything we do. So if you apply, if you are successful and you join Amazon, you need to be aware of the leadership principles. You need to work towards them. You need to demonstrate how you can kind of show the leadership principles in whichever role you're in. So that's kind of my first tip of the day. If you are going to apply, make sure you're aware of the leadership principles and think about examples from your previous work experience, from your education, from your personal life, hobbies, etc., where you may have demonstrated these leadership principles. Because if it's our view that if you can demonstrate these leadership principles throughout the recruitment process, you've got a very good chance of being successful once in the role. So they are really important to us. I know lots of companies have leadership principles or similar, but they really do underpin everything we do. And we're not just kind of saying that to sound good. One of which I'll pick out really quickly. Learn and be curious. This is the idea that no matter which role you're in, no matter what you're doing, what level you're at, you should always be learning, asking questions, understanding how things work, why they work in a certain way, and think of new ways of doing them differently. I picked that one out because of apprenticeship programs are all about learning. You're coming in, you're working towards a qualification, you're gaining that work experience, and we're not expecting you to be an expert on day one. You work towards your qualification and gain those skills and knowledge across the program. So you have to have an appetite for learning. You have to be open to learning, being curious, asking lots of questions. So that one's probably the most important one for apprenticeships. But doesn't matter what role you're in at Amazon, all the other leadership principles will be relevant in some way. So be aware of them. We're not going to test you one by one, but if you can give us examples of when you demonstrated these, that's a really good place to start. A little bit now about a bit more about our culture and what Amazon's like as a place to work. So essentially, as I mentioned before, with 1.6 million employees, Amazon is a very diverse company. When we're talking about diversity in terms of employees, it's not just ethnicity and gender, but it's your background, your way of thinking. How do you approach work? These are all the types of things that we want to look for in a diverse workforce. So throughout the recruitment processes, it's really important for us to hire a group of people that are very different, that complement each other in different ways, because that then leads to different ways of thinking, different ways of working, that then leads to that innovation. So we don't want to hire the same type of people in our apprenticeship programs. We want to hire people who are from all sorts of different backgrounds, so that you come in and you think differently and complement each other. Some of the logos you'll see on the screen here, these are some of the affinity groups that we have across Amazon. So for example, BEN is the Black Employee Network, Amazon PWD is people with disabilities. So these are, on the whole, run by Amazon employees and were started and launched by Amazon employees. So, for example, the Women in Engineering one, we have lots of females across Amazon working in engineering roles who have set up the affinity group for themselves to kind of support each other. So it's a very inclusive, very supportive place to work. And these groups are there to also make it a fun place to work. So there's lots of events that take place you can get involved in. So yeah, it's really important for Amazon to have these things in place, make sure we've got as diverse a group of people coming in as possible, because it's essential to our business that we have that. Okay, so a little bit about apprenticeship programs now before I welcome some of my colleagues back to talk through it from their perspective. So as I said, we're focusing on career changes today. So a lot of this content is going to be around that. But there are lots of different programs that we have outside of what we're going to talk about today. But apprenticeships then, as I mentioned before, an apprenticeship is all about learning new skills and gaining a qualification, but you do so while you're working. So apprenticeships in general, there are hundreds of apprenticeship standards now across the UK that companies are offering that are all linked in partnership with the government and cover a multitude of different areas. So anything from operations and engineering through to technology, sales roles, marketing. As I mentioned, we've got fashion buyers, we've got people working in Amazon Music, we've got engineers. So the range is massive. I think we've got between 30 and 40 different apprenticeship schemes at the moment on offer, and that's across hundreds of teams in the UK. But an apprenticeship at a very high level is a structured learning program executed partly in education. So it mentions school there, but it's college, it's university, training provider, depending on the course. And you do it partly on the job. So at a very high level, you'll spend about 80% of your time on the job. So in the day job, working with your team at Amazon on critical projects, and you'll spend about 20% of your time off the job in a learning capacity. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that every Friday you won't be in the office. That training can take various forms. So it could be online webinars like this one. It could be in-person sort of classroom-based training. It could be work shadowing. Some of the apprenticeship programs require you to be in block learning. So you'll spend a week or two outside of the job learning before you go back to the day job. But the 80-20 split is really good for allowing you to kind of learn the theory one day and then put it into practice the very next day. So it's very different than if you went to university, for example, and spent 3 or 4 years gaining a degree. You don't really get to have any proper work experience until you finish. And I know certainly when I was at university, you forget a lot of what you learn in the first couple of years by the time you're actually in the workplace to implement it. Whereas with an apprenticeship, apprentices tell us you're learning one day, the next day you go into the office and you put the stuff into practice you've been learning. So if you prefer to learn on the job and a practical form of learning, then it's really great, an apprenticeship. Also, probably the best thing for a lot of people about an apprenticeship is you get paid while you're doing it. Even the 20% off the job learning you get paid for. So a lot of people that want to change their career will not be able to have a gap in earnings. They can't kind of financially support themselves to stop earning money while they gain the qualification. So this is where an apprenticeship is a really good option. If you want to change your career, you want to retrain, but you've never really had the time to do it, or you've never really been able to follow your passion for whatever reason, an apprenticeship allows you to get that qualification while you're working, while you're earning money to support your family, whatever that might be. So a lot of people use apprenticeships for that reason. And at the bottom there, you can see there are many different levels. So from level 2, which is the equivalent of a GCSE, right up to level 6, which is the equivalent of a degree. There are various different levels. So no matter what educational background you have, you can essentially work your way up to a degree qualification through apprenticeships if you want to do that. So our program, so we've got over 1,100 apprentices across Amazon at the moment, across those different areas. This is growing massively. So you may have seen the news recently. We are planning to hire around about 1,500 apprentices across the UK this year on Amazon. So you'll see the numbers are increasing, lots more teams, hiring managers taking apprentices now. So as I mentioned before, it's a really great place to be, and apprenticeships are right from the top. Your UK leadership are passionate about apprenticeships and bringing people in through that route. So it's a really good time to be part of the program. So as I mentioned before, so particularly today, we're talking about career changes. And my colleagues later will talk you through apprenticeships from their perspective, but particularly, and I touched on it on the previous slide, particularly for career changes, apprenticeships are that really good option to allow you to retrain while you're still working, while you're still earning money. So I'll give you an example. We've got plenty of engineering apprentices working across Amazon who have always been passionate about engineering. We've got some that will work on cars in their spare time, but haven't necessarily had the qualifications to become an engineer. And through an apprenticeship, they are retraining to be an engineer to then essentially follow their passion. So one of the best things about an apprenticeship, and one of the things that people don't necessarily realize, is there's no upper age limit. We've got apprentices in their 40s, in their 50s, so it's never too late to retrain if that's what you want to do. Apprentices are definitely not just for 18-year-olds straight out of college as an alternative to university, which is again what a lot of people might think an apprenticeship is for. So it doesn't matter what stage of your career you're at, what qualifications you have behind you. There should be an apprenticeship program out there for you at various levels that allows you to pursue that passion. So that's why we really push apprenticeships for career changes for people that, for whatever reason, have followed a career path and are thinking, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my career. I want to do something that I'm more passionate about, and apprenticeship programs allow you to do that. And just so, I mean, this kind of re-emphasizes the point. So again, sometimes it can take longer than expected to find the right career path. With an apprenticeship at a place like Amazon, you'll come in, you'll study, you'll work towards that qualification, but you'll also be part of a huge company that will allow you to move around. So for career changes in particular, focus on your transferable skills that you can take from your previous jobs into Amazon, because a lot of people think, Amazon wouldn't take me because I don't have the experience. I can't do this because my my background's in one area and I want to move into something different. Now, with an apprenticeship, you can't have too much relevant work experience in a particular area, otherwise you wouldn't be eligible. So it doesn't matter if you don't have the experience or the qualification. That's the whole point of an apprenticeship, to get that for you. So whether, for people that are returning to employment after a career break as well, who want to retrain, this is where apprenticeships can be good. So I'd really encourage you, if you are considering a career change, to really think about the apprenticeship route. What I'm going to do now, actually, I'm going to quickly show you a video, and then I'll talk through some of these programs. It's a video we've recently shot of some of our apprentices who are career changers, who have joined us in the last couple of months. So hopefully this will work. Let me see if I can get this to, here we go.
Before I came to Amazon, I was actually a retail manager. I had 23 years retail management experience. The apprenticeship really stood out for me because I knew that I had people skills from my management roles. So I thought actually this was a really good opportunity to build on that. It was a really good starting point to what could be a new career.
Before I started this apprenticeship, I was in used textile recycling industry for the last 15 years. The reason to move for this apprenticeship was I had been in that industry for too long. The challenge was not there. I wanted a real change. I wanted to learn something new. With Amazon Apprenticeship, I found that there is no age limit. If you have an interest, if you have a skill that you want to take further, you have a dream career that you want to pursue, age is no limit.
Transitioning from a career in biomedical science to a career in Amazon fashion as a data analyst was a big step, but my team encouraged me to use my transferable skills in terms of analysis and just my knowledge within my previous role and try to apply it to this current role.
If anyone was at a point where they think they want to try something new, I would definitely recommend anyone tries and applies for apprenticeship. I think it's a perfect opportunity to develop yourself, to maybe find a new direction to go in, and give yourself a new challenge as well.
Okay, so hopefully that just kind of re-emphasized what I was saying before. And that we don't script those videos either. We generally ask for apprentices to support us when we're making videos like that, and they just talk from their personal perspective, and we film it and cut it and put it on camera. So as you saw, people that have 15, 20 years experience doing something else that are now working at Amazon in roles to try something new and change the direction of their career. So yeah, so that again, it is a great option if that's what you want to do. So there's a few. This is a small selection of some of the programs that we have. I don't really have the time today to talk through these in more detail, but what we will do when we come to the final slide, there's a website on there. There's an email address, so you can find out more about these programs. But essentially, what you can see is everything from kind of 15 months through to 4 years at kind of advanced level 3 through to degree level 6. There are so many different options for you. So software development at the top. You might be somebody that has a passion for coding, does a bit of it in your spare time, but hasn't necessarily been able to get a job in software development because you haven't got the qualification. An apprenticeship is a great way to gain that qualification to transition into software development. Engineering, you can see on the screen there. But as you saw in the video, we've got a data analyst in fashion who worked in biomedical sciences. So it's a great example of a career change that allows you to use transferable skills in a new career. And just finally, before I welcome my colleagues back to talk from their side, essentially, who are we looking for? So when we hire apprentices, it varies depending on the program you go into, but it doesn't matter what program you're on, you have to have a passion for learning new skills. And you have to want to start a new career. So essentially for us, if you can demonstrate that you're really passionate about the opportunity and you've got a desire to succeed, a willingness to put in the hard work and make the most of the opportunity, that's a really good foundation to be successful on the program. What we see, if people are committed to their own development, make the most of the opportunities, learn, ask questions, work hard, they're generally pretty successful on our programs. So I'd say, again, another tip is throughout the interview process, just make sure that passion comes across for learning and for the program. Having your eyes and ears open, learning from everybody around you, learning the theory, putting it into practice. So, but aside from that, just be passionate about what you're applying to. Again, if you're applying for engineering, talk to us about why you're passionate about engineering. Why do you want to do it as a career? Because it certainly helps if you're passionate about what you're doing day to day. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a while, and I'm going to welcome back Julia, who's Senior Digital Marketing Manager in Book Depository, who has apprentices in her team, who will ask to talk about apprenticeships from her perspective. So over to you, Julia.
Hi all, great to be here and talk about apprenticeships. As Adam just said, I'm a Senior Digital Marketing Manager for Book Depository. Maybe on one of the first slides, you saw a little logo up there. We're an Amazon company who's an online bookseller shipping to, over 120 countries worldwide for free. And I'm personally looking after some of our online marketing. So think of like display ads, social media, all those kind of things. And that's really where one of our apprentices who's reporting into me is really adding a lot of value to our organization, because reporting into me directly is a creative design apprentice who we hired back, I think, in October. Really relevant for you as well is that he was actually a career changer. So came from a career full of retail, but on the side, his hobby, his passion was always graphic design. And that is something that really came across in the interviews, and was exactly what we were looking for in terms of someone who's just passionate about it, keen to learn some of the software and skills as part of the apprenticeship. So yeah, we're obviously incredibly happy to have the creative design apprentice on our team. But we also do have 2 other apprentices on within our organization. So we have another data analyst and a reporting analysts. So even as you can see, within one subsidiary, we already have 3 apprentices across all different kinds of functions. So as you know, Adam earlier said, at Amazon, we're really passionate about apprentices, and we're so keen on the value that you're bringing in. I think if I'm talking a bit more about our creative design apprentice, especially, I think having had sort of, a very different career, not necessarily relating to graphic design, just brings in a whole new perspective into marketing, or even into their job. So I know obviously our creative design apprentice has a lot of passion for the subject, but hasn't had the chance to really apply this in a sort of corporate world setting. And now I know, some of you might think, well, if I don't have that experience, like what can I add? But that's really what is really valuable to us, because not coming in with that fresh perspective, with I guess not that experience from other company, and having that mindset of, oh, this is how you do it and this is how it's always done, that really helps challenge barriers and bring in fresh perspective, bringing unique ideas, and just doing things differently. And I think in an ever-evolving world, especially in the digital marketing world, we need to challenge the status quo. So our creative design apprentice has already done that throughout his apprenticeship. I mean, he joined, I think it's 4 months ago now, so October. And within that 4 months, I think one of the coolest things, if I can say that, he's been working on was he's really passionate about Harry Potter. So we actually may have seen this. There was a Harry Potter reunion. So obviously, being a bookseller, we wanted to advertise some of the Harry Potter books, and he's just taken the whole project on himself. He just said, "Look, I love Harry Potter. Let me have a go at this. I'll send you some of our design posts for like social media and stuff." And within a week, he designed the most engaging assets we have seen on social media, and 4 months into an apprenticeship, having had no experience in the tools. And I think, again, this comes back to our leadership principles of learn and be curious. Our design apprentice had no experience in animating or designing these interactive things, but he was so passionate about the topic of books, Harry Potter, etc., that he was just like, well, I'll give it a go. And we're equally as open and there to give him feedback. So I think, yeah, it's just a great success story of someone who's been in the organization for 4 months, and shows that you don't need to have had that corporate experience or on-the-job experience beforehand to make a difference. And I think, yeah, if I had to sum this up, this is really what adds the value to us having apprentices on the team. I think I saw some questions on the chat as well in terms of sort of the long-term benefits of an apprenticeship in terms of career progression, etc. I think, especially as career changes, having an apprenticeship and having, I guess, the theoretical side to it, but also the professional side and learning on the job in a corporate environment, I think ultimately that really strengthens your career prospects. And you're learning basically on the go. You have all the up-to-date knowledge almost from your college courses or your apprenticeship courses on the side. And equally, you're in a company like Amazon, like we said earlier, where you have the opportunity to, yes, you might be assigned to one department, but there's all these, for example, affinity groups where, you might join and get a perspective on different parts of the business. So I think joining Amazon for that is really a great opportunity to get to know some of the other business areas and ultimately also find out what you want to do. Because I think an apprenticeship is obviously, it's great to learn new skills and being in an area that you're passionate about, but it's equally also a great opportunity to find out for you what you want to do next and what you want to do with the skills that you've gained in an apprenticeship. And I think obviously as a hiring manager, I think there were some questions earlier as well, sort of what we're looking for and what to do if you don't have any work experience in the area. I think as Adam already said, it's about, I guess, being passionate. For me as a hiring manager, I'm not necessarily looking at your past experience from a perspective that I'm saying, well, you've never worked in this area before, I don't consider you. That's not the case. Like, we don't expect that for apprenticeships. But what I do, I guess, look for is I want you to be, I guess, one, yourself. We don't hire robots. Like, you bring a unique skill set from your previous job experience, from hobbies, from your personal life, all of these things into your interviews, into your professional life. And I want to hear about that. And equally, I just want to be assured that you have the passion for the apprenticeship that you're applying for. So whether that's just showcasing, hey, on the side, I've been doing X, Y, Z just for fun, or I've done, I don't know, some random e-learning course because I'm really interested in the subject. Like, I want to hear about it, because I think ultimately that gives me the confidence as a hiring manager that you want to learn and be curious and that you want to progress your career. And then I think the one thing, again, Adam's already said all of the important things, but really going back to the leadership principles. So have a look at them, study them. You don't need to learn them by heart. I think if someone questioned me right now, I'd probably miss one, because we have a lot of leadership principles. But just make sure that when you look at your work experience, your hobbies and everything, that you have some examples and see how you can connect, the dots between the leadership principles and what you're applying to in the apprenticeship. And yeah, as long as you can give us some examples for that, show your customer obsession and back it up with like some hobbies or some life experience, that really helps. in an interview. And I think the last piece of advice, because I'm babbling on here and talking a lot, and I want to obviously make sure that there's time for our other apprentices to give you a bit of perspective. But I think keep in mind as well that, the interviews are also a two-way street. So I know when I've been like in my first interviews after university, I was so nervous. I forgot to ask questions. But I think the interviews, like when you get to the hiring stage and you get to like an interview, make sure that you also ask questions, because as much as we want to make sure that, we are right for you, you also need to find that for yourself. You need to make sure that, you're getting out of the interview, that you have your questions answered, that you know what you've signed up for. So we're always happy to hear your questions as well as hiring managers in interviews. And I'll pass it on to, I think, Adam, or whoever's next.
Brilliant. Thanks, Julia. Yeah, just really, really key piece of advice there from Julia about remember that assessment interview process is a two-way street. So you also need to make sure, as she said, you find out if Amazon, wherever you interview, is the place for you. So that's really, really good piece of advice there. Okay, now I would like to welcome Lee back, who is a project manager apprentice. So Lee, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So yep, Lee Platt, project management apprentice, and I've been at Amazon just over a year now. I think Feb 15th was my anniversary, as it's called. And yeah, it's been a fantastic year, and I'll get into some of those details in a moment. But like I alluded to earlier, I'm part of what's called the Amazon in the Community team. So it's really Amazon's branch of philanthropy and donations and supporting communities worldwide. So it's a really fantastic area to be a part of, and it's growing. And as you can imagine, with what's going on in the news at the moment, it's a huge there is a huge amount of work to be done, and things that we can offer, and it's incredible to be a part of that. Day to day, when we're not going through this crisis that we are at the moment, my job is really focused on donations. So I was brought in. My role was really to work on the product donations. So with all of the stock that Amazon has, there are some of those items that they perhaps don't sell for whatever reason, or they might be coming up to an expiration, so pet foods and things like that, for example. Or we may have things that have fallen off of a truck. Say it's, for example, a pack of 6 Coke cans, and one of them fell off and was dented. That can never be sold, but there are 5 other items there that are in perfect condition still. So rather than these items not going anywhere, trying to find charities and organizations that would benefit from these kind of things. So that's a key part of my role. But within the project management and product donation stuff that I'm doing, there's lots and lots of other things as well. So it's an opportunity to really try lots and lots of different things. For example, event planning is something that I've done quite a bit of as well, and that's its own project. So it's certainly not just one project that I've been working on, and as I've been here, each month I've been given more and more responsibility, more and more kind of projects to work on, and as well as that responsibility being given to you, you certainly develop your own confidence in how you can manage these things as well. And you get that confidence and knowledge of navigating Amazon, which in itself is a learning process. But yeah, the whole thing for the past year has been brilliant, and the things that I've been able to work on. Why I decided to do this though, as a career changer. So for the past 10 years, I've been a physiotherapist in the NHS and privately as well. And I still work privately, just a few hours a week, but the NHS full-time role, having done that for the 10 years, I'd got to a point where I was trying to figure out what to do next, and I wasn't really sure, and I wasn't really in love with the options that I had and where I saw my career progressing within physiotherapy. So it was that moment for me to really think about what other things were out there, what other things could I try. I tried various things in the past as well. So prior to being a physio, I'd worked in a school, I'd worked in a couple of office jobs, I'd even worked on a dust cart lorry. So I'd done a few things, but I'd never really explored the corporate world, and project management was something that I had a few friends in over the years that had spoken about it or worked in it. I always liked the idea of it, and I think a lot of the features of a project manager were things that appealed to me and my personality and how I organize myself anyway. So yeah, looking into it, it was this great opportunity to retrain in something that I was curious about, but having been working for quite a few years. I'm 37. I was when I joined. I think, what was I, 36 maybe, just when I joined the apprenticeship. I thought that changing career and going into something completely different probably wasn't an option for me. But as you would have heard in Adam's talk earlier, it's a great opportunity for career changes and people that are thinking about what to do next. So I discovered the Amazon apprenticeship here and the job, I think, on Google. I found it there, just typing in project management and Amazon and Google and all sorts of combinations of things. But this was the one that really appealed to me. And I applied and was successful. I won't go into details of like the interview and stuff, but if there's any questions around that, then I'm more than happy to answer that later. Let me just check. I've got a list of things here that I wrote to prepare for this, so I don't want to miss anything. But another reason that this was such a great opportunity for me was being in a career where I was fairly well established as a senior physio. I was earning a certain amount of money that I was nervous that if I took an apprenticeship, I would have to drop that salary. And I've got a young family, I've got a mortgage, so it was important that that was a factor that I didn't lose. And I was really pleased to see that the apprenticeship salary that I'd be getting was very similar to what I was already earning. So it hasn't really affected me in that sense, which has been brilliant. It's given me an opportunity that I couldn't have taken if I had to drop right back down to the bottom of like a pay scale for a complete beginner, which I am in Amazon and in project management. So that was fantastic. It takes a stress away that you don't need when you're learning a new job and a new skill. To not have to worry about finances has been brilliant. So how do I balance my time here as well on the apprenticeship? It's 20% of the week that I'm allocated. I'm not sure if that was mentioned earlier. I think it may have been actually. So it kind of works out as one day a week, which sometimes is taken as one afternoon and one morning on different days, or sometimes a full day. And that one day is purely for me to focus on my studying for project management on the course, which is external to Amazon. It's not an Amazon run course, but also a portfolio I have to put together and a presentation that I have to work on as well. So it gives me an opportunity to really work on that without having to think about the day-to-day Amazon things. I won't lie, it can be tricky sometimes to be disciplined and make sure you take that time, but that all comes down to good organization and making it clear with your manager and your wider team, and just having that communication that this is my time to work on that. And everyone's been really supportive with that as well. There's never been any pushback at all of people saying, oh well, you can't take that time, you need to work on this. Everybody understands that an apprentice is allocated that time and it should be honoured. So that's great as well. There's never any guilt about taking that time to work on the qualification. And the other 4 days are great because you're just doing the job, you're learning what to do, you're just figuring out how Amazon works and all of the different things that go on in all of the different teams. And with the size of Amazon, there are so many different teams, and so it's brilliant. And in terms of after the apprenticeship, so mine is 24 months or 18 to 24 months really. It's given that buffer window to allow people that may be progressing it quicker to finish a little bit earlier. After that, there is no permanent job that you go into, but there are so many skills and experiences that you've had that it puts you in such a great opportunity to apply for a permanent position with Amazon. And it gives that opportunity as well that you can explore other areas of the business, so you don't have to just stay in the team you're in. For some people, they will want to do that and there may be a job there. For other people, there's a whole other world of business in Amazon that they could explore as well with the skills that they would have learned in the apprenticeship. Again, I'm going on a bit as well, aren't I? And I could just talk about myself for hours. I could have had the whole hour just for myself, I'm sure. But I'll wrap this up. Advice to other kind of applicants, I would just, sorry, Adam, I would just say do it. I spent a lot of time kind of in a bit of a dilemma. Do I leave my career? Do I change what I'm doing? A year down the line, I'm really pleased I've done it. And everybody that I talk to, all my friends, they all say, oh, I wish I'd done this. And they all just think it's great. I think it's great. And yeah, I think if you're thinking about it, just do it. You know, it's not a case of no going back. You know, if it doesn't work, there's other things that you can try. You can always go back to another career or your previous career, but I think you'd be surprised at how much you are glad that you've made that decision to try it. That's me. I'm done.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lee. You actually just stole my parting comment there about give it a shot, but I'll well done for that. So yeah, some great advice there again from Lee in terms of you know, what an apprenticeship could mean for you and what it could lead to. So okay, so we'd like to welcome Jane back. Who's another apprentice on our program. So Jane, over to you.
Hiya, thanks Adam. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'll just try and keep it simple because I know there's been quite a few questions coming through. Bit about me and my background. So I've started my career in retail. I worked in, I don't know if any of you can remember Barrett Shoes. I was a concession manager there. From there I had a child, and then I ended up going to work in the civil service. Then I had another child. From there, I then went back to work and ended up going to work at the local authority. I was at the local authority working in finance for about 13 years, and I just felt like I'd hit a brick wall. It wasn't what I wanted to do. There was no career opportunities there. I applied for jobs. I didn't even get an interview. It was really frustrating. And then obviously COVID hit as well. So I went from being a visiting officer working out in the community, visiting people in their own homes, to going to home working, and I just hated it. I also then had another child, so that's 3 children, 45-year-old. What do I do next? I was looking for the jobs, and again, like I say, I just wasn't getting anywhere with them. And then the one came up for Amazon, so I read a little bit into it. Thought, do I go into it? I don't want to go into it. I will be honest again, I was a little bit frightened about going for Amazon because you do hear a lot of bad press. However, I have to say, hand on heart, it is a load of rubbish. From going from local authority to Amazon, it's the best move I've ever done. I love working at Amazon. They do so much for people who work here. They have events on, they have giveaways on. There's something every week going on for people to get joined in on. And it's just brilliant that you get lots of perks. You get to be able to join the stocks and shares scheme and pensions, things like that. So I feel like I'm set for life now. I came into a health and safety apprenticeship. I had absolutely no background in health and safety. So that was a worrying time, thinking, do I go for it? I don't. I've gone for it and I love it. You learn on the job. It's good wages. And there's, if you're struggling, there's always someone there to help you. There's always people who are doing the job who can help you progress through what you need to do. So the apprenticeship scheme is basically you put together a portfolio of work as you progress. So you might look for examples. So from my point of view, might be a risk assessment. So I'll put together how I've done that risk assessment and put that in my portfolio as evidence. And this builds up throughout the time. It's an 18-month apprenticeship. At the end of the 18 months, your portfolio gets submitted just to show that you've covered all the areas. You do have an exam, but you do have online tutor sessions. So they do help you go towards your exam. I'm looking at doing mine possibly in July, August this year. After that, I think you're given a project at the end, and that's your final thing. So you basically spoon-fed a lot of the way, and it is an easy way to learn and build up your knowledge. I think I can see myself staying in health and safety, but if I did it and I didn't think this was my option, there's plenty of other options out there. The ops team are out there, so you could look, you've got the knowledge from those. You could look to sidestepping into those. Obviously, you've seen all the other franchise bits of Amazon that you can go into to progress your career. I was just having a quick look at the questions again. So day to day, basically, no 2 days are the same. You're picking up on things all the time. You could set a list of to do and it just goes out the window in the first half an hour at work. You get out of your apprenticeship what you put in your apprenticeship, which is key. You do need to want to do that. So what I would say, if you want to look into maybe going into HR, going into finance, going into health and safety, do a bit of research, see if it's something that you want to do. Get maybe some stories of other people that have done the apprenticeships. There's plenty online. See what they say about it. I mean, like you say, I'm being totally honest. I wouldn't be on this webinar if I didn't fully go for the Amazon apprenticeship. But there's nothing bad I can say about it. It is really good. You do get, it's not so much you get the time off the job to do your learning. What the class is everything that you learn is off the job, so you can count that towards your learning. You put your evidence in against that, what you've learned. What else is there? What do I want when I finish my apprenticeship? I'm doing it as a level 3, and from this I'm hoping to progress on to the level 4, or to stay within the health and safety, whichever jobs do come up from there. And my advice for anybody who's thinking about going for an apprenticeship, just do it. You've got nothing to lose. Like the others have said, if you do it and you don't like it, or you think it's not for you, go back to something that you know. Do what you want to do. Make it happy. You get one chance in life. You've got, your work takes up most of your life, so make sure you enjoy it. And I don't think there's much else I can say without keep repeating what everybody else has said. If you do have any other questions, though, please feel free to add them. And that's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane. We'll see you in a couple of minutes for the Q&A.
Thank you.
Okay, so I did have a couple of other slides here, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to whiz through them. But there's just a couple of examples. Jacques was working in warehouses for 10 years and is now in our operations IT department. And then we had Camilla, who's actually been part of an Amazon TV advert, which you may have seen, but she was a health and safety nurse in Brazil and is now an engineering apprentice. So again, just more examples of apprentices who have changed their careers. Very quickly, application assessment process. It varies per program, but there are essentially 3 stages: apply online, some kind of online test or video questions, depending on the program, and then an assessment center, which we've primarily done virtually in the last 18 months, where you do things like group exercises, presentations, interviews, practical tasks, etc. You can get support through all these stages. So if you make it through these stages, just ask questions about what's involved. We're happy to support you. I did have another video I was going to show you, but I would like to leave time for questions. This video is on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, type in Amazon Apprenticeships, you'll find it there. So I'm not going to take up the time and show it now. But before we open up to questions, there's a website there, amazonapprenticeships.co.uk, where you start your application journey. Find out more about our programs. There's an apply now button on the website. It takes you to the jobs page where you apply. And then any other questions we don't get through today, apprenticeships@amazon.com is our email address. Myself, the rest of the team I work in, regularly monitor that. We'll make sure your question gets to the right person and we'll get back and answer it for you. So what I will do is I'll leave this on the screen while we go through questions. So if you want to take note of the email address, website, please do. But Sharon, if you're there, I think we'll use the last 10 minutes or so for questions. So if I could also welcome back all my colleagues, please put your cameras and microphones on. And then, yeah, Sharon, we're happy to take questions, please.
Okay, well, first I want to thank everybody who has joined us and have been so incredibly active in the chat box. In fact, so active, and given the time, we're going to have to try to give one-word answers when we answer these and select a few. But before I start firing questions, you do see that there is additional questions at amazon.com. So if we don't get to yours, you make sure you make a note of that, and you can get in touch directly with them following this presentation. So let's get cracking. So Dean says, will the apprentices work across multiple business areas?
I think it depends on what program. So most of the programs you're assigned to one particular team who are hiring for that program. But you will also probably work across multiple teams, even if you don't work in those teams. The exposure you get to different teams, different business areas in your work. I imagine particularly somebody like Lee in the job that he's doing works across multiple different business areas. So you would get that exposure even if you're not based in that team.
And what's the average age of your apprentices?
I don't actually know the answers to that off the top of my head, but as I mentioned before, we've got apprentices everywhere from 18 through to we've got apprentices in their 50s working in engineering. So yeah, it varies. There isn't really a kind of age group that apprentices are for. It's for anybody.
Elsa Contiero, which sounds quite like a nice name, is asking, is there a specific link on the website for careers changes? And when will interviewing, applications, and so on start? Which I think that's on your slide here, but if you want to say.
Yeah, so the vacancies have been open since the start of February. Different programs are at different stages. We've got lots of different hiring teams working on them. But we're pretty much at the moment in the screening process, so the early stages. So we're screening applications for eligibility, sending out invitations for various schemes for video interviews. But what I'd say, if you haven't heard anything yet, just please be patient. We are just working our way through the applications. Assessment centres will probably start April onwards. And no, there's no specific link for career changes, because as a career changer, you can do any program. So I think the best thing to do, have a look, what you're passionate about. Do we have a program, or what programs are closely linked to your passion, and kind of go from there. But there is no specific programs for career changes. You can apply for anyone you want to.
Great. And this is a question from Nicole to Lee specifically. Is there anything you found challenging with changing careers?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose like a year down the line, it's hard sometimes to think back, isn't it? But I think, yeah, in honesty, I did find the change difficult because I was senior in my role. I was very confident with what I was doing. I was very good at what I was doing. And then I changed to something that I didn't know anything. I was rubbish at what I was doing when I started, I think, in my opinion. And I just didn't understand the corporate world and like how Amazon works in relation to healthcare and the NHS. I mean, they couldn't be further apart, really. So the transition was tricky. And I think you have to expect that if you're established and you've got experience in a field, there is going to be that kind of that period where you have to adjust and get used to it. But it shouldn't be a surprise. You should be expecting it. I was expecting that I would find it tricky, the transition, and I did. But before I knew it, I was doing the job at a high level, I think, and it was getting good feedback, and there wasn't really a single moment that I thought, oh, I've transitioned and I'm here and I've got it now. But the fact that my manager and my colleagues were asking for my help and were giving me more and more work and responsibility, that was a confidence booster that I'd done it, I'd got where I needed to be to then keep progressing.
Brilliant. And a quick one for Julia. How does the culture at Amazon compare to other places that you've worked?
Oh, that depends. Classic answer. I think because Amazon is so big, you even have different cultures and different teams. So I personally, in general, if I had to sum up Amazon culture, it's very supportive. It's very, I think, fast-paced, but in a good way, in that you learn so much, and everyone around you is always happy to help, no matter which part of the business they're working at. So I think, yeah, I'd say supportive, fast-paced, but equally very exciting. And
just quickly, Jane, from your perspective, obviously you work in the operations side of the business, which can be very different to some of the corporate roles. How would you what would your answer be to that question from your part of the business?
What was the question? Sorry.
About the just the culture and the kind of transition that you've been through to kind of the work environment that you're in now.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different. Look, going from local authority to working in Amazon, it's got its own little culture. Amazon, it's brilliant. I love it. There is, like you say, you get people who've come from different countries to work here, and they've got different backgrounds. You learn from that as well. It's lovely. I love it.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. Well, we have actually run out of time, so we have a bit of time to say our farewells. Adam, do you have any closing words and anything you want to say? And say your apprentices to have a chance to say farewell as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing else from me. I think both Jane and Lee have already said what is usually my kind of parting statement, and just give it a shot. Without repeating ourselves, don't think of reasons why you can't do it. Just think of reasons why you want to. Doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what you've done before. If you're passionate about it and you're willing to put the hard work in, you'll be a success. So that's usually what I finish on. So
great. And I have to say, I just noticed Tariff, he's popped up a couple times, bless. And I think we ought to have a little quick answer of his question, because he did ask, he's only 17. Obviously, this session in particular was for career changes, but we have done sessions with Amazon that are on the site for younger people. So do have a look on careermap.co.uk/careermap live. And also have, again, as Adam had said several times, have a look on the Amazon site. And I'm sure there's something for everybody there.
Yeah, we have plenty of people that join straight out of college instead of carrying on education, or not necessarily straight out of college. 18-year-olds who want to do an apprenticeship, continue the learning. We have hundreds that join us every year. So absolutely, there are programs for 18-year-olds.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Well, thank you to Adam and everyone on your team for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for everyone in the audience for tuning in. As we said, the whole session has been recorded. The link's in the chat if you want to open that up quickly. If you want to make a note, do a screenshot of the screen at the moment with all the contact details. Please do, because I'm about to sign off. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.